Good morning. I'm Dr. Shanti, Assistant Professor, Department of Microbiology, Sri Lakshminarayan Institute of Medical Science, Puducherry. Today we are going to discuss about poliovirus and rabies. So coming to poliomyelitis, it is exclusive a human disease which is caused by poliovirus. The only source is human. So patients shed the virus in feces for a variable period. In 50% of the cases, they will shed the virus for 3 weeks, and smaller proportion of the people will shed the virus for 3 to 4 months. No permanent carrier state in this. Virus will persist in the environment, that is in sewage, for up to 6 months. So they will shed the virus during the early part of the disease in throat secretion. So WHO has declared major continents free from polio except few African and Asian countries. So India has been declared polio free for the last 5 years. This is mainly due to active polio eradication program, sustained vaccination through pulse polio and mop-up programs. So India has actively participated in the global polio eradication initiative to work towards polio free world. So the main aim of this global polio eradication to eradicate the polio globally. Poliovirus is a highly infectious childhood disease, that is polio, which is causing acute flaccid paralysis involving the central nervous system. So it is in verge of eradication globally. Coming to the morphology, it is simple in structure and it's very small in size. It is 28 to 30 nanometer in size, non-enveloped spherical shaped virus and is having a icosahedral symmetry. So the capsid consists of 60 subunits and each having 4 viral proteins that is arranged from VP1 to VP4. So except Parkiovirus having 3 proteins, it possesses a single stranded positive sense RNA. It is a virus which is belong to enterovirus family. So this is the structure of poliovirus. So this is the first picture showing the structure just having the antigens which is arranged from VP1 to VP4. And the second picture is an electron microscopic picture. That is a pointing arrow shows poliovirus. Coming to the antigenic types. So it has been classified into wild poliovirus, which is causing the natural disease, and the vaccine-derived poliovirus, which is occur from the vaccine strains. This regain the neurovirulence and affecting the human, causing disease. Coming to the wild poliovirus, there are 3 viral wild polio strains. One is wild poliovirus type 1, wild poliovirus type 2, wild poliovirus type 3. So this all 3 strains will be identical. They produce similar manifestation and the severity of the illness. They are genetically and immunologically distant from each other in VP1 region. The antibody response will be type specific and it is not cross protective. Currently, all the natural diseases are caused by, that is wild poliovirus strain 1. So both wild poliovirus 2 and wild poliovirus 3 were globally eradicated in the years 1999 and 2019 respectively. Coming to the pathogenesis, this is mainly transmitted by fecal-oral route. It is the most common route of transmission and rarely by respiratory droplets via inhalation or conjunctival contact. So multiple locally, that is, it is multiplied in the mainly in the intestinal epithelial cells, submucosal lymphoid tissue of tonsils and Peyer's patches. So they mainly multiply in the intestinal epithelial cells, submucosal lymphoid tissues of tonsils and Peyer's patches. Receptor, the viral get entry into the host cell, which is mediated by CD125 receptors, which is present in the host cell surface. Spread to CNS, how the virus has been spreading to the CNS and spinal cord. So the hematogenous spread is most common mode of spread. The virus spread to the first regional lymph nodes and getting spilled over to the bloodstream, causing primary viremia. So then after there will be multiplication in the reticuloendothelial system, that is RES. Then from there it enters into the bloodstream, again causing secondary viremia. From there it is carried to the spinal cord and brain. So this is how the infection has been spread to brain. Coming to neuronal spread, following tonsillectomy, the virus may be spread via the glossopharyngeal nerve present in the tonsillar fossa. Then site of action, the motor nerve ending, mainly it affects the motor nerve ending, that is the anterior consoles of the spinal cord, leading to muscle weakness and flaccid paralysis. Coming to the clinical manifestation, incubation period for the poliomyelitis is lasts for 7 to 14 days. So it is mainly occurs in as a asymptomatic stage to severe paralytic stage. The manifestation will be mainly, it is usually asymptomatic. Then the patient will go for severe paralytic stage. So in apparent infection, the patient will be asymptomatic, that is 91 to 96%, which accounts 91 to 96%. Abortive infection, that is a minor illness which manifests by fever, malaise, sore throat, anorexia, myalgia, and headache. This is common in 5% of the patients, which accounts 5% of the patient. Then non-paralytic poliomyelitis, that is aseptic meningitis, which accounts 1%. So these are the common manifestations seen in poliomyelitis. Coming to paralytic poliomyelitis, it is the least common form that is seen in less than 1% of the patient, which is characterized by descending asymmetric acute flaccid paralysis, that is AFP. Proximal muscles will be getting affected earlier than the distal muscles. So the paralysis starts first at the hip, then it proceeds towards the extremities, leading to characteristic tripod sign, that is, the child sits with flexed hip, both arms are extended towards the back for support. So this is a characteristic sign which is seen in poliomyelitis, that is a tripod sign. Then coming to the continuation of the paralytic poliomyelitis, the site of involvement is more common in the spinal, bulbospinal, and bulbar region. There will be a biphasic course. In children, the asymptomatic meningitis occurs first, then the patient will get recovered, and there will be return of fever with paralytic features 1 to 2 days later. Cranial nerve involvement is seen. There is no sensory loss in this case. So this is a picture showing the deformity seen in both picture. The patient is being affected with poliomyelitis. Coming to the risk factors, it is common in older children and adults, pregnant women, heavy muscular exercises, a patient undergoing trauma at the time of CNS symptoms, tonsillectomy will predispose to bulbar poliomyelitis. IM injection will increase the risk of paralysis in the involved limb. Suppose if you're giving IM injection to the paralyzed leg, so the risk of paralysis will be more common. So these are the risk factors in poliomyelitis. Coming to the lab diagnosis of poliomyelitis, the virus isolation is done in primary monkey kidney cell line from the throat swab. So samples we have to collect: throat swab, rectal swab, and stool samples will be collected from the patient, affected patients. Then we have to do a viral isolation in the primary monkey kidney cell line. Then viral growth is detected by CPE. Then viral antigen or viral gene in cell line. Antibody detection by neutralization test. So difference between injectable and oral polio vaccine. Coming to polio vaccine, the formulations available are 2-1. One is injectable polio vaccine, that is SARC. Then oral Sabin vaccine. Polio vaccine is Sabin. So this is injectable polio virus contains 3 serotypes, that is, it will be protective for 3 serotypes, 1, 2, and 3. Hence, it has been given in 2 doses. Full dose of IPV and fractional dose we have to give. Whereas in case of OPV, it is available in trivalent OPV, which is protective for 3 serotypes, 1, 2, and 3. And bivalent form, that is OPV, is mainly protective for the serotype 1 and 3. And monovalent OPV or any serotype. Then coming to national immunization schedule for the injectable polio vaccine, 2 fractional doses, that is intradermal dose at the upper arm, 0.1 ml per dose, given at 6th and 14th week of age. And along with it should be given with bivalent OPV. Whereas in case of oral polio vaccine, total 5 doses is needed, 2 drops per dose. Then oral of bivalent OPV, serotype 1 and 3. So it will cover serotype 1 and 3. 0 dose given at birth. First, second, and third dose will be given at 6th, 10th, 14th of age, 14th week of age. Booster dose can be given at 16 to 24 months. Safety for injectable polio virus, it is relatively safe than OPV. For oral polio vaccine, it is safe except in immunocompromised patient, pregnancy, and old age. We should not supposed to give this OPV. So this is a continuation of the difference between injectable poliovirus vaccine and oral polio vaccine. Coming to the efficacy, it is 80 to 90% efficacy. That is, injectable poliovirus is 80 to 90% efficacy of full course of IPV. Immune response is slower than the OPV. The immune response will be slower in injectable polio vaccine. Whereas in case of oral polio vaccine, the efficacy is 90 to 100%. It is achieved even by 1 or 2 doses of OPV. Efficacy is decreased by when it is interfered with other, if the patient is got infected with other enteroviral virus, this efficacy of the vaccine will be getting decreased. Then diarrheal disease, if the patient is having any diarrheal disease, or if the baby is given any breastfeeding before or after, immediately after the vaccine, the efficacy will be decreased. Coming to the economy, it is relatively expensive, that is injectable polio vaccine, whereas it is economical, that is oral polio vaccine is economical. Duration of protection is short in case of injectable polio virus, need booster dose periodically, whereas in case of OPV, it is long lasting. In epidemics, it precipitate the paralysis. So it can use safely during epidemics in OPV. Herd immunity is not provided in case of OPV, provided due to fecal-oral spread of vaccine virus. Local immunity is weakly stimulated, whereas strongly stimulated due to IgA antibody in case of OPV. Coming to the vaccine-associated paralytic poliomyelitis. So, vaccine-associated paralytic poliomyelitis denotes all cases of paralytic poliomyelitis that occur following the OPV administration. So, vaccine-associated paralytic polio strains or OPV-like isolates, which show limited genetic divergence from the parental OPV strains, that is less than 1%, can occur among the OPV recipients as well as to their close contacts due to the fecal-oral spread. So this is a vaccine coming, we are continuing the vaccine-associated paralytic poliomyelitis. It's not capable of circulating in the community, do not cause any outbreaks. So the rate approximately occurs in 1 case per 2.5 million dose of OPV. Okay, the most common serotype associated with the vaccine-associated paralytic poliomyelitis is Sabin type 3, 60%, followed by Sabin type 2, which is about 40%. Coming to vaccine-derived poliovirus, that is VDPVS. So it is a live attenuated vaccine strain present in OPV, that is oral polio vaccine, which undergoes genetic change to become VDP. So here the live attenuated vaccine strain will undergo some genetic change and become as a vaccine-derived poliovirus. So vaccine-derived poliovirus is capable of producing poliomyelitis clinically indistinguishable from the wild poliovirus due to the regain of neurovirulence. Okay. So it has been indistinguishable. So here there are 3 types of vaccine-derived poliovirus which has been recognized. Out of this, circulating VDPV, that is most common. 2 varieties other 2 varieties are immunodeficiency associated VDP, that is vaccine-derived poliovirus, and ambiguous vaccine-derived poliovirus. Vaccine-derived poliovirus, this strains are circulated in the community and spread to person by fecal-oral route and cause outbreaks. They pose the same threat to the community as of wild poliovirus. The genetic divergence for this vaccine-derived poliovirus is more than 1% than the strain that causes VAP, that is vaccine-associated paralytic poliovirus. Occurrence of vaccine-derived poliovirus case are more common than vaccine-associated paralytic polio, as it can spread in the community. Since 2000, that is vaccine-derived poliovirus outbreaks has been occurred in several countries, including non-endemic countries, which is already declared eradicated. So in eradicated countries also, it has been occurred mainly due to this vaccine-derived strains causing this infection in several countries. Even it is also eradicated. One outbreak also has happened in 2000. Coming to the epidemiology, man is mainly the known reservoir. Clinical and subclinical ratio for every clinical case, there may be 100 children getting affected and 75 adults of subclinical cases. There is no chronic carriers except immunodeficient individual. There is no chronic carriers in this. Source is stool and oropharyngeal secretions are the main source of transmitting this infection. Coming to the age-wise, the younger age group and infants are more susceptible than adults. So the younger individual and the infants are more commonly affected compared to the adults. Period of communicability, shedding the virus for most the infected patient, they will shed the virus in pieces for 7 to 10 days before the onset of the symptoms and up to 2 to 3 weeks thereafter, sometimes as long as 3 to 4 motions. They will transmit the infection. Coming to polio eradication, polio is now the verge of eradication. It is mainly attributed to extensive immunization program being conducted globally. So it is mainly eradicated because of the mop-up program and extensive immunization program. It has been controlled, that is eradicated globally. Coming to pulse polio immunization, it was initiated globally to eradicate the poliomyelitis. In India, it was operated since 1995 to 96. So there are two rounds of pulse polio immunization, 6 weeks. There should be 6 weeks apart from the each dose. Scheduled for every year during the winter season. Children less than 5 years should be vaccinated with OPV. Then a pulse polio immunization dosage of OPV considers an extra dose for the patients, for the kids, and it should not be replaced the OPV, which is received if the patient has already received OPV from the other hospital. They have to receive while during the pulse polio immunization. So this is an considered as an extra dose for those patients. Okay, then AFB surveillance. Polio end game strategy. So this is started in 2019 to 2023. 2023. Then a global polio eradication initiative has been initiated, the end game strategy for polio eradication. GPEI, they have initiated some eradication for polio. So the main goal is to eradicate the polio by 2023. The first goal is eradication. That we have to interrupt the transmission of all wild polio virus. First thing is we have to interrupt the transmission of all polio virus. Then we have to stop all the vaccine-derived polio virus outbreaks within 120 days of detection. We have to stop all this thing. We have to eradicate and report it immediately. For that, we have to report immediately. Then coming to the goal 2, that is integration, contribution to strengthening the immunization and health system to help achieve and sustain polio eradication. Then we have to ensure sensitive poliovirus surveillance through integration with comprehensive wild poliovirus and communicable disease surveillance system. Prepare for and respond to future outbreak and emergency. The second goal is integration. We have to strengthen the immunization program. This is mainly to achieve and sustain the polio eradication. And we have to prepare for the outbreaks in second goal, that is integration part. Third goal is certification and containment. We have to certify the countries of eradication of wild polio virus, contain all the polio virus, including from the laboratories. So third one is certification and containment. So coming to rabies, first thing we have going to see rabies, about the introduction part in rabies. Rabies has been recognized since ancient time as a disease transmitted to the humans and animals by the bite of mad dogs. So it has been mainly transmitted by the bite of mad dogs. The name rabies comes from the Latin word rapidus, meaning mad, which is derived from the Sanskrit root rabus, meaning frenzy. The disease in human being is called hydrophobia because the patient exhibit the fear of water. So it is caused by rabies virus. Rabies is endemic in India. Coming to the epidemiology, there is no direct person-to-person transmission of rabies has been recorded so far. Two epidemiological types of rabies exist. One is urban form, another one is sylvatic form. The urban one, which is transmitted by domestic animals like dogs and cats, whereas the sylvatic one involving the animals in wild, such as jackals, wolves, foxes, mongoose, skunks, and bats. So it is commonly involving the jackal, sylvatic form, whereas the urban form mainly involving the dogs and cat. The natural cycle of the rabies virus is seen in vampire bats. So the natural cycle will be seen in vampire bats. So humans are infected by aerosol if they enter the caves colonized by infected bat. The humans here, they are infected by, well, they enters into the caves which is already colonized by the infected bat. So in India, anti-rabies treatment to be considered following the bite of any animal. So we have to give the anti-rabies treatment for the bite of any animals except rats. So more than 30,000 people die of rabies in India every year. So every year in India, more than 30,000 people are dying because of rabies. Coming to morphology, it is a bullet-shaped virus. It is a lipoprotein and has a knob-like spikes, that is known as glycoprotein, which is showing the knob-like projection, and membrane or matrix protein is there. Then genome is unsegmented. It is negative sense RNA, RNA-dependent RNA transcriptase, and some structural protein are present in the nucleocapsid. So these are the two protein which is present in the nucleocapsid, that is RNA-dependent RNA transcriptase and some viral proteins. Coming to antigenic properties, glycoprotein has a surface spikes. So it mediates the binding. Because of this one day, it is getting binding to the acetylcholine receptors, which is present in the neural tissues. It induces heme agglutination inhibiting antibodies, and it also induces neutralizing antibodies, which is protective antibodies. And it stimulates cytotoxic T cell immunity. Then purified glycoprotein acts as a safe and effective subunit vaccine. Then coming to the nuclear capsid protein. So it induces the complement fixing antibodies, which are not protective. So it is group specific, and cross reactions are seen in some rabies related virus. The anti-serum prepared against this nucleocapsid antigen is used in diagnostic immunofluorescence test. So other antigens are two membrane protein, that is glycoprotein, and RNA dependent RNA polymerase. Coming to the virus susceptibility, the virus is inactivated by ethanol, iodine preparation, quaternary ammonium compounds, soap, detergents, lipid solvents such as ether, chloroform, and acetone, phenol, formalin, and beta propionolactone UV radiation, that is ultraviolet radiation, it is getting inactivated. The virus has been inactivated in this. So coming to host range and cultivation. So all mammals are susceptible to rabies. Then cattle, cats, and foxes are highly susceptible. Humans and dogs are intermediate position. Skunks, opossums, and flower are relatively resistant to this infection. Rabies virus has been classified into two types. One is streak virus and fixed virus. So this is the difference between streak virus and fixed virus. First part is the isolation. The natural infection in humans and animals, whereas fixed virus after several serial intracerebral passage in rabbits. Infectivity and fatal encephalitis, inoculation by any route in case of streak virus, whereas in case of fixed virus, it is more neurotropic, though it is much less infective by other routes. Incubation period is long and variable in case of streak virus, that is 1 to 12 weeks, whereas in case of fixed virus, it is short and fixed incubation period of 6 to 7 days. Negri body demonstration can be demonstrated in the brain of animals dying of streak virus infection and usually not demonstrated in case of fixed virus. Vaccine production is not used, whereas used in case of fixed virus. Coming to pathogenicity of rabies virus, it is mainly transmitted by the bite of rabid dogs or by other rabid animals. Virus which is present in the saliva of the animal is getting deposited in the wound. So the virus, once the animal bites the human beings, the virus getting deposited at the site of bite. Okay. Then rare mode of infection is non-bite exposure, aerosol, transplantation of cornea or other virus infected tissues. Incubation period in human is 1 to 3 months. Incubation period is usually short in persons bite on face or head and long if it is bite on the legs. So incubation period will be less if the dog bite on the face or head, and it is long if it is bite on the leg. So this is the histopathological changes seen in rabies encephalitis, which shows perivascular cuffing by inflammatory cells like lymphocytes and polymorpholeukocytes. So this is a picture showing how the virus has been transmitted to the brain. So once the dog bite the human being, so the virus getting deposited at the site of wound. From there, it get replicated in the muscles, skeletal muscles. Then a virus getting bind to the acetylcholine receptors present in the neuromuscular junction. From there, it ascends and reaches the dorsal nerve ganglion. The centripetal spread will happen. From there, it ascends to the CNS. The CNS, it disseminates to the hippocampus and cerebellum. From there, the centrifugal spread will happen. So it will spread to saliva, salivary glands, skin, cornea, and other organs. So this is how the virus has been transmitting to the CNS and causing the infection. So virus get multiplied at the site of deposition for 48 to 72 hours. So at the site of bite, the virus getting deposited, and it will last for 48 to 72 hours. The virus will stable, will live. They will multiply for 48 to 72 hours. Then it will spread to the peripheral nerves, to the brainstem or spinal cord via the retrograde and axonal transport. It disseminates throughout the central nervous system. It spreads throughout the central nervous system and selectively injuring the neuronal processes, that is axons and dendrons, without producing the neuronal death. So coming to histopathological changes in encephalitis, there will be perivascular coughing due to the accumulation of inflammatory cell infiltrates. The virus also multiply in the salivary glands and shedding the saliva. Then it ultimately reaches the every tissue in the body, invariably present in the cornea and facial skin of patients, provides method of antemortem diagnosis in case of human rabies. In case of antemortem diagnosis, we will detect the virus in cornea of the infected patients. Coming to the clinical future, incubation period is prolonged and variable, which ranges from 1 week to 19 years. And incubation period is inversely related to the distance from the virus which has been traveled from the site of inoculation to the CNS. Hence, it is shorter in children than in adults. Then, if it bites on the head, and as already we discussed, an incubation period is less if it bite on the head and neck, upper limb, then legs, and short people. Coming to the clinical spectrum of the rabies, it is classified into three types. One is a prodromal phase, second one is a acute neurologic phase, third one is a coma and death. Coming to the lab diagnosis of rabies, antigen detection from the hair follicle at the nape of neck and from cornea by indirect immunofluorescence technique. Then by virus isolation by mouse inoculation and cell lines inoculation in mouse neuroblastoma and brain, heart, kidney cells. Antibody detection from the serum, CSF by mouse neutralization test and rapid fluorescent focus inhibition test, immunofluorescent assay. So these are the other antibody detection test from the serum and CSF. We will detect the antibody by this methods. Then viral RNA detection by RT-PCR. Then agribody detection histopathological stain for a vein biopsy in hippocampus is one of the post-mortem diagnosis of rabies. So this is a picture showing Negri bodies, that is HNE stain, brain biopsy by hematoxin neosine stain, showing the Negri bodies, the pointing arrows and Negri bodies. So this is seen in brain biopsy of stain by hematoxin neosine stain. Treatment, there is no specific treatment for rabies. Symptomatic treatment may prolong the life, but outcome is almost always fatal. So isolation, the patient isolated in the white room, protected as far as from the external stimuli, bright light, noise, water, and cold air, because even the small stimuli will precipitate the spasm in these cases. Sedative and anti-anxiety drugs, that is morphine, can be used. Hydration and urination should be properly maintained. Coming to the prevention of human rabies, according to the WHO guidance 2018, rabies is being prevented by providing prophylactic measures. Two form, one is post-exposure prophylaxis, and another one is pre-exposure prophylaxis. The first one is a post-exposure prophylaxis. This is mainly for the individual who are not received the pre-exposure prophylaxis previously. Post-exposure prophylaxis consists of three components. One is local wound care, rabies vaccine, and rabies immunoglobulin. So first thing, once the dog bite, we have to provide a local wound care. We have to wash the wound with soap and water. Second thing, we have to give a rabies vaccine. And third one, we have to give a rabies immunoglobulin. So coming to the risk categorization and recommended anti-rabies prophylaxis according to the WHO 2018. So category wise, first one is category is no risk. Type of exposure for the category 1, touching or feeding of animal, licks on intact skin. Recommended prophylaxis according to the WHO, there is no treatment if the history is reliable. Second category, there is a minor risk which carries minor risk. Minor scratches or abrasion without bleeding or nipping of uncovered skin. Recommended prophylaxis here is wound management, rabies vaccine. We have to observe the dog for 10 days. Category 3 is a major risk. It's a single or multiple transdermal bites with oozing of blood, licks on broken skin or fresh wounds or mucous membrane, direct contact with bats or wild animals. We have to give a wound management, rabies immunoglobulin, rabies vaccine, and we have to observe the dog for 10 days. Coming to the local wound care. So first thing, we have to do a physical cleaning. We have to wash the wound with soap and water. Second one is we have to chemically inactivate the virus by pouring antiseptics, that is povidone, iodine, or alcohol. This is mainly to inactivate the residual virus which is present in the wound area. Then third one, we have to postpone the suturing. Suturing will cause the local tissue damage and it will help the spreading of virus. So the suturing should be avoided in this case. So the other general measures which include debridement of devitalized tissue, tetanus prophylaxis we have to give, then antibiotic treatment to prevent any secondary bacterial infection. So these are the things we have to do in under the general measures. Then do not touch the wound. Should not touch the wound with bad hands. Then should not apply any irritants like soil, oil, lime, herbs, chalk, betel leaves, etc. Coming to the vaccine, types of vaccine what we are using is cell line derived non-neuronal vaccine. So this is mainly recommended. So this vaccine is 3 vaccines are available under this. One is purified chick embryo cell vaccine, which is prepared from chicken fibroblast cell line. The second one is a purified vero cell vaccine, which is prepared from vero cell line. And third one is a human diploid cell vaccine, which is derived from the W138 human embryonic line fibroblast cell line. So these are the 3 vaccine under cell-derived non-neuronal vaccine. Coming to the route of transmission, how the routes we have, what are the routes we have to prepare for injecting the vaccine? One is intradermal route, other one is the intramuscular route. Site is deltoid area is commonly preferred in case of adults and anterolateral area of thigh in case of children aged less than 2 years. Should not administer vaccine in the gluteal region. One intradermal dose is equal to 0.1 ml of vaccine and 1 IM dose is considered as an entire vial of the vaccine. Irrespective of the vial size, we have to consider. Then schedule at what time we have to give and what are the days we have to prefer. So then intradermal regime or the cost effective, the dose sparing and time sparing preferred over the IM regime. So the compared to the intradermal regime we are following now compared to the IM regime. The intradermal post-exposure prophylaxis regime is 2-2-2. That is 2-site intradermal vaccine is given on the day 0, 3 and 7. The IM post-exposure prophylaxis regime, which here 4 doses will be given in 2 scheduled form is available. The first IM vaccine will be given on 0, 3, 7 and 4th dose between day 14 and 28. And second intramuscular vaccine will be given on the day 0 and 1, site IM on day 7 and 21. There will be the vaccine changes in vaccine product or the route during the same post-exposure prophylaxis course can be acceptable if it is unavoidable condition, mainly to ensure the post-exposure post-completion. Coming to the rabies immunoglobulin. Rabies immunoglobulin provides immunization, passive immunization by neutralizing the virus. Timing one day once as soon as possible, not beyond, it should not extend beyond 7 days after the first dose of vaccine. Preparation, human rabies immunoglobulin and equine rabies immunoglobulin. These are the preparation available. Dosage, maximum dosage 20 international unit and 40 international unit per kg per weight. So this is a post-exposure prophylaxis for the individual which is previously vaccinated. If the patient is previously vaccinated with the rabies vaccine, they need only the local wound care and accelerated vaccine regime, which is consists of the following 3 schedule. They have to follow the 3 schedule only. The first site intradermal vaccine will be given on day 0 and 3, or first site IM vaccine given on day 0 and 3, or 4 site intradermal vaccine given on day 0, only left and right deltoid will be preferred. Thigh or supraclavian area will be preferred. Coming to the pre-exposure prophylaxis, continuation of the pre-exposure prophylaxis, it is recommended in 2 conditions for the individual who are working in a higher occupational risk or the subpopulation which is remote endemic areas. We have to give this rabies vaccine. That is in pre-exposure as a pre-exposure prophylaxis. Coming to the, so it can be given to the individual of all ages. Schedule is 2 schedule are available. 2 site intradermal vaccine given at day 0 and 7. And first site IM vaccine given on day 0 and 7. Booster dose provides lifetime protection. No need to take pre-exposure. That is a pre-exposure prophylaxis periodically. We're not supposed to take the periodically. Booster dose periodically. Coming to the epidemiology, rabies is enzoonotic and epizootic disease of both wild and domestic animals. Source is infected dog. Source of infection is 99% of cases. Virus is present in saliva from 3 to 4 days before the onset of symptoms till the death of dog. Age, though all ages are affected, children's aged 5 to 15 years are at great risk. Control of rabies in dogs. Most common step is an important step to prevent the human rabies. Incubation period varies from 3 to 8 weeks. It ranges from 10 days to few years. Like in humans, 2 types of manifestations seen in dogs. Furious rabies, that is mad dog syndrome, and dumb or paralytic rabies. So coming to the control of rabies in dog, how to control a rabies in dog. Most logical and cost-effective approach for the control of urban rabies is elimination of stray dogs. We have to eliminate the stray dogs, and mass immunization should be given for 80% of the dog in the area. So this is how we have to control the rabies in dogs. Coming to immunization part in dog, all the dogs should receive the primary immunization at 3 to 4 months of age, followed by booster as per the type of vaccine used. Vaccines commonly used in dogs are BPL inactivated neural vaccine, oral recombinant glycoprotein vaccine. Thank you.